I'm 20 years old, currently living with my mom full-time since my dad is working out of the country. She has a husband who has two daughters from a previous marriage, one in her tween years and one in her young teens, as well as my half-sibling who is a young child. My mom's husband is currently unemployed due to being abruptly terminated. While they both do odd jobs here and there, they barely bring in any money for the household. I am currently in my second year of university and have been paying for most of my own expenses, such as clothes, hobbies, phone bills, etc., since I was 16. When I turned 18, I also started paying rent and for my car. My stepfather and his daughters are big eaters, which I don't mind. However, I recently started buying my own groceries and made it clear that they were not allowed to have any. I do make exceptions for my stepsisters as they are kids, but for the past few months, my mom has been asking me to buy groceries for the whole family. This means I am now paying for all the food, rent, and even driving my stepsister to and from school, among other things. During a recent dinner together, I remembered that I had bought a watermelon a few days ago. It was almost gone, but I planned on eating the last of it. However, when my stepsister asked for some, I told her there was barely any left and offered her an apple instead. She insisted on having watermelon, but I stood my ground and said sorry. My stepfather then chimed in, saying that kids should go first, but I reminded him that they had been eating watermelon for the past few days, and it was now my turn. He then looked me in the eye and told me to put it back and eat something else. I responded by saying that I would eat whatever I wanted, since I was the one paying for it. After that, no one said anything, and I took the watermelon to my room. Later, my mom came and apologized for my stepfather's behavior, but also scolded me for saying something in front of my stepsisters. She accused me of being rude and implying that I was being financially abused by my family. In my opinion, I am not the one in the wrong here. It's funny how my stepfather and mother, who are essentially living off of a 20-year-old, can accuse me of financially abusing them. If my stepfather is so concerned about what his kids eat, he should get a job and provide for them. It's not right for a grown man and woman to rely on a young adult for financial support. And it's even more absurd that my stepfather has been looking for work for 2 years and still hasn't found anything. Yet I am the one being accused of financial abuse, while I am the one paying for everything. It's clear that it's time for me to move out. I'm sure living on my own with a roommate will be less expensive than paying rent and feeding a family of 4. While I understand that it's not ideal to fight in front of children, the level of disrespect shown towards me could not go unanswered. And I didn't even raise my voice or say anything rude in front of them. For all the money you're spending, you could rent your own place and not have to worry about people disrespecting your right to your own food. And then have the audacity to accuse you of financial abuse. Once again, you're being taken advantage of. You have a good head on your shoulders and can clearly take care of yourself. You don't need to deal with this kind of nonsense, especially at your age. Buddy, call your dad and find a separate place. It's gonna go downhill quickly. It's a slippery slope when parents rely on their children to pay for everything. At some point, you'll want to purchase your own place or make another big purchase and won't have the funds because you're supporting your entire unemployed family. I've been there. Get out now. My wife, 37, and I, 37 male, have 4 kids, teenage twins, a tween boy and a tween girl. We generally agree on how to raise them, but a recent incident had my wife and I disagreeing, and I want to see if I was in the wrong. A few weeks ago, I was at home with our middle son who was sick with a stomach bug. While I was making him soup, I received a call from my daughter's high school informing me that they wanted to speak with me and that my daughter had received 3 days of in-school suspension for bullying. Due to my son's illness, I spoke to them over the phone and they told me everything that had happened. My daughter and a group of her friends were teasing a boy for wearing a crop top. The boy reported it to the teacher, who asked them to stop. When they didn't stop, she sent them to the principal's office. After speaking with the boy, he admitted that the bullying had been going on for a few days, and that they continued to bother him even after he asked them to stop. When my daughter and son came home, my son's face was bright red. I told my daughter to go to her room and then sat down with my son to make sure he was okay. It turns out that the boy she bullied was a close friend of his and one of his football teammates. The boy was talking to my son and their other friend and mentioned that he thought it was cool that some men used to wear sports crop tops. The boys told him that if he thought it was cool, he should try it. So the boys went out and bought some jerseys from the thrift store and made them into crop tops. I then spoke to my daughter. She didn't show much remorse and was dismissive of me. Last year, she also got into trouble for bullying someone because of their clothing. She's also been in trouble for racism at school. We live in a predominantly white area, and we are white. When my wife got home, we discussed punishment and agreed not to buy her new clothes for a while since she already has plenty of good clothes. This weekend we went to visit my brother, who lives around 3 hours away, in a small town that we don't often get to see. This week was the town's annual fair, and they had booths from some local businesses. Our oldest son went to the booth with antique sports items and then to the book booth to get books on sports history. He loves reading those. Our middle son got some plushies and toys, and our youngest daughter looked at the video games. Our oldest daughter went to the clothes. I stopped her and told her the rule was still in place. I said she could buy books, a video game, candy, etc., but clothes were the one thing she could not get. She was bugging my wife, and my wife eventually told her she'd reconsider it. She then talked to me, and I told her that I wasn't changing my stance because I was letting her buy other stuff, and I thought she was entitled. My daughter didn't buy anything, and my wife thinks I was too tough on her. When I called my mom for advice, she also agreed with my wife. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. Your response to your daughter's continued behavior as a bully is to simply restrict her from buying clothes. So candy and toys are okay. How is that a punishment? And your wife can't even manage that. No wonder your daughter has a problem. You guys must implement consistent and actual consequences for her actions and teach her why bullying is unacceptable. She's more than old enough to learn compassion. Too tough. Your daughter is a remorseless bully, and you say, "Here's a lot of money, sweetie." You just can't buy clothes unless that makes you too upset. Are you intentionally raising an entitled idiot? Do you hate society and humanity? Everyone's the idiot here. Your wife, your mom, your daughter, all idiots. Imagine being this blind and stupid to think that not allowing her to buy clothing for a few months will deter her when she's still able to use her electronic devices, buy candy, makeup, etc. Have you considered the real consequences of your daughter's crappy behavior? Also, living in a predominantly white neighborhood does not excuse you for failing to teach her to be aware of other races and cultures. You have only a few years left with her. Get on it. Do better as a parent. Recently, I hosted a family gathering. I served coleslaw, fruit salad, and cooked meatballs from scratch with the family recipe. I also boiled spaghetti and put it in a bowl separately from the meatballs. My sister was the only family member of mine in town at the moment, so she arrived early. She asked to help in the kitchen, and I allowed her to do so, assuming she would not sabotage my cooking. When I walked back into the kitchen, to my horror, I saw and smelled that she had poured maple syrup into the pasta and meatballs and mixed them into the same bowl. I asked her what the heck she did. She looked confused and responded that she had added syrup to the spaghetti. What she did was so shocking that it amused me, and I questioned her reasoning for this move. She said that pasta was a carb made of wheat, just like pancakes, and meatballs were red meat, just like bacon, so her combination was normal and would taste good. I simply shook my head and said no. It took me a second to comprehend, but she ruined my meal. I asked her to make something to make up for what she ruined. She did as I asked, but I had to stop her after she took my Wonder Bread, peeled off the crust, and spooned coleslaw onto her sandwich. I gave up and told her to stall our guests while I boiled pasta. Making meatballs would take an incredibly long amount of time. When I was done, I told her that she could eat the coleslaw sandwich she made for dinner, because I couldn't afford to waste more food. However, when my family and I sat at the dinner table to eat, she would try to passive-aggressively bring up how I didn't let her eat. what everyone else was having. I then brought up that she ruined my meatballs with maple syrup. My brother asked us what had happened. I explained how our sister poured syrup into the meal I had cooked. My brother winced and said that despite how unappetizing her combo sounded, it was cruel not to let her eat what everyone else was having and to make her eat a horrible sandwich. I told him that she had made the sandwich and that she could eat it. I feel like I honestly was an idiot in this scenario. So now I'm asking the wise folks of Reddit to tell me if I was being an idiot. Edit, I'm 24, my sister is 26, and my brother is 18. Not the idiot? Is your sister Buddy the elf? Who does that? I mean, she ate what she made. Honestly, I'd serve her a bowl of that maple syrup and meatball spaghetti to go with it. Let her see how her logic holds up. Bah, OP should have served it to everyone and said sister helped, aka destroyed dinner. I believe she's developmentally challenged, or she was deliberately attempting to sabotage my meal for who knows what kind of ridiculous reasons. For starters, no one just waltzes into someone else's home and adds ingredients to their cooking. That's just deplorable manners, because presumably, the person cooking has decided how the dish will be prepared. If the chef asks for an opinion after offering a taste, someone can suggest it. I'm sure maple syrup on spaghetti and meatballs violates the Geneva Convention. Seriously, my guest's sister can't cook and is jealous of how everybody loves my cooking, so she decided to take me down a peg. I would have put maple syrup into her coleslaw sandwich and made her eat it. You are the idiot. Did you try it before throwing it out? Depending on how much syrup she put in, if it didn't taste too horrible, you could have added more tomato paste, then maybe some mustard and balsamic vinegar, as well as some paprika and other spices to turn it into a barbecue-style meatball and pasta dish. There are normally always ways to salvage meals. Agree? You're the idiot, OP. She didn't sabotage my meal. That implies malicious intent. Intent? She accidentally messed it up out of ignorance. From the perspective you described, everything she did made sense to her, and she was simply trying to help. In return, you chose to punish her because her assistance did not meet your or anyone else's standards. I don't know. I feel like your brother is right. It seems rather cruel. My brother Mark, 27, invited his boss to a family birthday party. His boss, whom I will refer to as Adam, 55, arrived empty-handed, and the first thing he did was ask my wife, whom he had never met before, to get him a beer. She ignored him. My brother quickly got him a beer. Now this party is a mix of friends and family, so that's not a big deal. People often bring a variety of items to barbecues and do not show up empty-handed like Adam did. Adam proceeded to eat everything, including ribs and steak, not giving others a chance to taste anything. Finally, he tried to talk to my wife, brother, and me. My wife is Australian, so when she gets annoyed, she sometimes uses words that are not really acceptable in American English. Adam said something else to make her angry. She told him, "Just because you're Mark's boss doesn't mean we all think the sun shines out of your butt. You show up eating everyone's food and acting like a freeloading clown." After that, Adam left, and Mark was angry at my wife for swearing and insulting his boss. I found it amusing, but my brother is mad at my wife, who is now angry and telling Mark not to invite his boss to family events. Mark is now mad at my wife and me. Some family members think she was disrespectful to a guest at the party, but it's not like me saying something to her about her language will make her behave better in the future. Not the idiot? Just because he's the boss of one person at the barbecue doesn't mean he has authority over everyone else at the party. His behavior was that of a self-entitled idiot. He ate all the best food and expected the first person he saw to wait on him hand and foot. So, I believe he deserved the remarks he received. Or the first person he saw. I got misogynistic vibes from that part. Honestly, I can't imagine a scenario where I would want my boss at a family birthday party. What the heck? That's ridiculous. Mark, buddy, what are you thinking? You are not the idiot for not telling your wife to behave. She is not your child or pet. So why does your brother expect you to be out here with a spray bottle saying, "No, bad girl, naughty," huh? I completely understand why your wife got upset with his boss. He sounds obnoxious. If your brother has an issue with your wife, he should handle it like an adult and talk to her about it, or let it go. It's not your responsibility to control her. I, a male in my 40s, have been married to my wife, also in her 40s, for 14 years, and we have been together for almost 20. We have a tween daughter, Lucy. Unfortunately, both my wife and Lucy have a lot of intolerances. Lucy's also been diagnosed with ADHD and is very particular and picky with her food. This doesn't mean that she only eats nuggets, as Mel makes sure she eats healthy meals. She just changes the way she cooks them, which can make the cooking process longer. Lucy is also learning how to cook. Due to their intolerances, we have to check the menus of every place we go to make sure both of them have something to eat. Sometimes this means we can't try new places without one of them having to spend the next 2 days in the bathroom, but we have a few safe options. My mother wanted to have a family dinner and chose a high-end dining establishment. Unfortunately, the restaurant only had 2 menus, one with meat and another vegetarian, and they had to be ordered for the entire table. I've spoken to my mother and she refused the vegetarian option. It was the only menu that didn't contain the foods my wife and daughter are intolerant to. They do eat meat too, and my mother was excited to try the dishes. However, this meant that my wife and daughter couldn't eat anything, and my mother was expecting me to pay for everything. I canceled the booking and chose one of our safe options instead. We were supposed to go yesterday, but my mother threw a tantrum, calling me an idiot for changing the plans. She really wanted to go to the new place. I've spoken to her numerous times about this, explaining that my wife and daughter couldn't eat anything there, and she knows about their intolerances. However, she refused to compromise, even if it meant that my wife and daughter would have to watch us eat. So unfortunately, the family dinner didn't happen, and I've since received multiple calls and texts from my family calling me a selfish idiot. So am I the idiot? Not the idiot, but here's how you handle this. Book the restaurant, but don't order anything to eat. Not for you, your wife, or your daughter. All of you just sit there and watch her eat. I seriously doubt my mother would even care. Of course, she already knows that my wife and daughter can't eat. Oh, and don't forget to forget your wallet. Your mother doesn't get to pick the meal based on her preferences when others are involved and have dietary restrictions, especially since you're paying for everything. Her lack of consideration and childish behavior is concerning, though. I suggest going low contact. OP, I think you know you're not the idiot. You know deep down that your mother is being outrageous. But I think you feel guilty labeling her that way because she's your mother. Tell your mother that you'd be happy to attend the dinner if she pays for it, as she's the one who will be eating. Your mother sounds like a narcissist to me. She wants to try this restaurant. She wants to try their meat dishes. She wants her family to keep her company. Not friends, just family. She wants a family whose kids are old enough to behave. She wants her family to pay for the meal. She wants all the relatives she left off the hook to give her grief for prioritizing her family's dietary needs over her own wants. She sounds exhausting. OMG, once again, I am bombarded with multiple calls and texts from my family calling me a selfish idiot. How on earth do you allow extended family to express their opinions on an issue you have with your mother? And why did you not stand up for yourself by saying to them, "How is it your issue where I booked to eat with my mother?" Show some backbone, man.